Welcome to the NUNANMAR Podcast.
Our Earthview.
Hello.
We are Andre,
And Marcus.
and with this podcast, we want to take you on a monthly journey with us. A journey through and for our planet Earth. We will share with you our Earthview from three perspectives: the Latin American one, the European one, and the African one, in order to awaken our human conscious to create and live a new development path, and with it, a new relationship with our planet.
We will deal with topics such as the big climate challenge and the crucial solutions such as agroecology on a global level. We will also discover together the life in Malawi, the beauties and challenges of this small African country where we will be living for 3 years.
Join us! Before we start, we would like to inform you that parts of this video and audio could be unstable sometimes. Daily power cuts and weak internet connection in Malawi challenged the recording of the podcast, but we try our best for you. Enjoy!
Hello, dear friends. We are delighted to have you with us again. Thank you for your comments and suggestions, which we will take with us for this episode and for the future. My name is Timo Lemke. In this episode, we will continue to talk about Andre and Marcus' first personal impressions in the city of Blantyre in Malawi. Today, we will talk about house hunting, the challenges involved, and generally about the housing situation of Malawians. Marcus will also report on his work in the rural communities. Of course, we also want to hear about the progress of their Chichewa knowledge. So let's get started. Hello, Andre. Hello, Marcus.
Hello, Timo. Nice to meet you again.
Hello,
Hello,
everybody! Nice to be here again.
So please tell us about your personal house hunt in an unknown city. How did you manage it?
At the beginning, we determined 3 criteria: the proximity to my work, the proximity to Nuna school, and also that it has a garden so we can experiment with plants and have some fresh herbs and vegetables, which is important to us. Before I carried out a sample in the internet already in Germany. So when we came to Malawi, I just asked my social environment, my working colleagues, for some houses that are available in any neighborhoods near the work, for example. And we figured out that these are administered by housing agents. At the beginning, we started with the neighborhood close to my work, which is in Pingwi. That is an Indian neighborhood. And interestingly, Malawi has had some West Indian families, which are first and foremost Muslims and Buddhists, trading here since the late 18th century. And even though they do not even represent 1% of the population, they play an essential role in the Malawian economy through their businesses. In this neighborhood, you find big houses, many mosques, and surrounded by slums. Some funny facts. Most people think Andre is Indian, also even Malawians. And yes, Indians here, they are kind of a bubble, a social bubble, as well as Azungu, which are foreigner, especially white foreigners like I am. And at the end, we also asked some contacts of Nuna school, and they recommended us to look for some houses in that neighborhood called BCA Hill. And in the end, we found a house in that neighborhood. It has some smaller houses, but nice and big gardens. So we felt very comfortable from the beginning. And now we're here. I'm happy to report you from our new house.
Yes, we are very happy to have found a house already, and I would like to mention that we also had the fourth criterion for choosing a house, and it was that the landlord or the landlady are reliable because the houses, most of the houses we visited were very damaged and needed a lot of reparation, and it was also because of the COVID situation, which had most of the houses empty for more than 2 years. So this was also a criteria, but it was also interesting because we also visited a neighborhood called Chigumula, where only middle and low income Malawians live. This was a different neighborhood because the other two neighborhoods we visited, it was mostly people with high income Malawians, Indians, and also foreigners. So this was in Chigumula. There was this little nice house with small garden, which would have been enough for us actually, and where we actually felt very welcome and well. Unfortunately, this was not an option at the end because it was too far from Marcus' work, and also too far from Nuna's school. And since we are gonna only use bike, which this is our plan, yeah, this wasn't an option at the end. Another interesting fact about it is that we will have been the only Azungu, which means foreigner family, residing in these neighborhoods. And this will have brought us a big step closer to Malawian culture for sure, which is our great wish. But at the same time, some people advised us not to move there. The argument was that our safety was not completely warranted. And this was something very weird for us. We couldn't understand. And as I said, we felt very welcome over there. Of course, that would have been extraordinary because we notice that for sure there is little or no intercultural exchange between foreigners, Azungos, and Malawians in the simpler neighborhoods. Neighborhoods, yes. When we were looking for a house, we also noticed that the residential plots often have the so-called servant quotas. That means a living area for employees. This was very new for us. We don't know this from Europe. Well, we knew this from Latin America, but like a lot of years ago. I think in Brazil, this is still a reality, but apparently this comes from the colonial period where employees lived with their employer. In Malawi, this is still a common reality. And the family that was living here before us, they had 7 employees and asked us before they left if we could continue to offer a job to these people. We were quite overwhelmed at the beginning because on the one hand, we knew how difficult the economic situation in Malawi is. So to have a job is very important, of course. On the other hand, it meant a big responsibility for us to have so many full-time employees at all once. And yeah, and they will have us as their only source of income. So at the end, we decided to offer jobs to 5 people, 3 guards, 1 domestic helper, and 1 gardener. These people work part-time, and so they have the possibility to find another job or just to have more time for themselves and their families. At the same time, we have the opportunity to get to know some of the reality of these people's life and to learn a little bit Chichewa for sure. Although so far they have not accepted the invitation to eat with us, they prefer to eat among them. But this is certainly yet to come that we eat together. Here they say pangono, pangono, so slowly, slowly.
So 3 guards. What about security? Is your house under 24-hour surveillance?
Not 24 hours, but during the night, as there are thieves that already came into our house. Well, not into the house, but in the garden. And they were seen by the guards, and then they ran away. But during the day, they would not dare to come because they would be recognized from other people, and people know each other pretty well here. So there's little risk that something would happen during the day.
Yes, this house used to be monitored 24 hours before. We decided that the house should only be monitored at night, as Marcus said, because we actually feel a sense of security during the day. There are these 3 people. Yes, we have 3 guards, and they take turns to do this work. In Blantyre, it feels like there are security guards everywhere. However, I feel like a certain pleasant basic security so far in Malawi. I like in Nicaragua, for example, where I often had the feeling that I really had to pay more attention when I was walking on the street, for example. Of course, you shouldn't be out after sunset, or you notice that everybody recommends you to get a dog, for example, or when we walk on the street, we are watched by many passers by on the streets because of our skin color. We attract attention, even if I'm not that light. But otherwise, I feel quite comfortable on the street. It's actually very relaxed atmosphere, a lot of life.
So it doesn't sound easy, this new experience, but I imagine you have must learned a lot. So,
Yes, for sure.
Yeah,
And
that is
we
for sure. Yeah,
and we keep
definitely.
learning.
and the next topic I would ask about is how is your mobility at the moment? How do you get to school and to work?
Well, I usually ride by bike to work, but first I take Nuna to school, and then I continue to work through the busy area of the city. The part where I go through is Limby, which has grown together with Blantyre. Actually, it was a separate city.
So we will take a look at a video where what we can see here.
Yeah, here we can see me on the bike and Nuna in front in the basket, where I take her down the entrance. We live on a hill, so I'm driving down the hill, and
I
yeah,
notice a lot of
there
big
was
trees in your garden.
yeah, that's true. We have quite a lot of trees, which is rare in yeah, generally even in Malawi. And yeah, it's nice to be in that area because yeah, it's very green and very fresh. It's more or less cool during the day.
So
The
this is
garden is too big though. Like we don't use the whole garden. Like we just need a small piece of it for planting some and harvesting some food,
what did
and
you
for
already
Nuna, of
plant?
course. But
What did you already planted?
Well, actually, I must say that we use as much as possible from the garden because I also planted some fruit trees and I raised some beds for vegetables and herbs. For example, coriander, tomatoes, like heirloom tomato varieties, paprika, dill, yeah, some spices, yeah,
Okay.
and many
and some
things. Pak choi.
and some native plants which just grow like wild,
Yeah,
which you can eat.
we also
Okay.
use wild herbs for nundiwo, which is a relish sauce of typical Malawian.
Okay, interesting. So let us take a look at the next picture you have brought us. There we see Nuna. She's walking home
Yes.
next to a road and on a green sidewalk. And we see some two chickens in the back.
Yes, these are some of the chickens of our neighbors.
So what is your neighborhood like? Have you already got to know your neighborhood? You have brought a photo that we can see.
Yes, yes. Um, well, the chickens we just saw, they belong to the neighbors who live just across the road from us. Where on this photo you can see on the left side, directly on the left side, it's like a hill, and you can see a plot where 18 families live. Right in front of it, where all these trees are, is our house. And on the right side is another neighbor or neighbors, because there are like I think at least 4 families living in this plot. But in the left side there are 18 families living, and we are right on the border between big and small houses in the neighborhood, and experience the gap between privilege and non-privilege every day. Two plots, both with same area. On one plot, we and the person who supports us with the household live, so 2 families. On the other plot, these 18 families. They live very simply, cooking by the fire, fetching groundwater from a water well, washing their clothes by hand, and growing maize, among other things. Like almost every humble Malawian family. This is the reality in Malawi.
Yes, Malawi, with almost 22 million inhabitants, is one of the poorest countries in Africa. According to Nature magazine, 50% is extreme poor. So let us take a look at this website, where we can see that Malawi has almost 22 million inhabitants, and almost 11 millions are in extreme poverty, which means it's under $1.90 a day.
Yes, and I would say many Malawians even live with less than $1 a day, especially those on the countryside. Just to complement what we are seeing here on this graphic that you brought us.
Yeah, and how do you experience this reality?
Yeah, I would say that, and I already mentioned it, there are several bubbles of society, which are the Indian community, the Azungu community, and the Malawians, which also are divided in different social status. And these groups, they don't mix with each other, or they mix very, very little. And especially the rural communities or the villages live almost without money, because there's actually no need. There's much trading, and many food items are traded. The staple food, for example, is maize or maize flour, sweet potato, and various leafy vegetables. I already mentioned that this is a very important ingredient for a dish. So they make a sauce out of it, a relish. For example, mustard or pumpkin leaves, bean leaves, and many times it's refined with nsinjido. This is groundnut flour. Most people live from €1 or less a day. As I already mentioned, the HIV rate is around 12% nationwide, and medical care is inadequate. Women are often disadvantaged. According to OECD report from 2019, even 27% of girls under 18 are forced into marriage, and legal framework for women's and human rights is still insufficient. Yeah, this is the perspective or the situation we face right now in Malawi.
Yes, and the people from the villages come to the city to find a job so they can send food to the villages. Not actually money much, but actually food. So they buy food and they bring it to the villages. Most people walk to work in Blantyre. You can see so many people walking. It's incredible. Like the rush hours, the most you see are people. Those who can afford a bike, they ride bicycle or motorbike, but a car, for example, is unimaginable for this part of the population. In the city, the village culture is partly lived on because there are like some small urban villages which are formed on the outskirts of the city, or just like ours across the street.
To what extent do you have contact with these 18 families, and how do you know that 18 families live there? I think you brought us a photo also.
They have a small. Yes, yes. This is a photo of a small market stand. These families have a small market stand where they sell vegetables, as we can see. Mostly they sell tomatoes, and in the front we can see sweet potatoes, which is very commonly for the breakfast time, especially. They eat it with tea, very typical here. And you can also see some leaves, pumpkin leaves or mustard leaves, say right? In the back, oh, they also sell a lot of salted fish, dried fish. And in the back of the stand, you can see a little bit the small houses. So we buy vegetables there from time to time, and these people mainly speak Chichewa. And since our Chichewa knowledge has progressed a bit, we already buy in Chichewa. And I asked them how many families live there. And they are our neighbors, and we are very interested in getting to know them and much better and building a friendship or a community. You can't tell these people don't have Atsungo clients or foreigner clients or have little contact with white people or foreigners. We want to narrow the gap of privilege by getting in touch with these people where so that money does not play a big role in coming together. This is our big wish.
So I'm looking forward to seeing how this wish develops.
Thank you. Yes.
And Marcus, my next question would be about your work. Maybe you can tell us about first a little bit of your work, and then you have also already visited some smallholder farmer communities. So maybe you can tell us about your first experiences.
Yes, with pleasure. But let me just mention where I work. My employer is called CARD, Churches Action in Relief and Development, based in Blantyre. And I collaborate and consult in a project called Agroecological Transition to Improve Rural Resilience. And so far, I have visited 4 districts in the southern and central region of Malawi to meet the local CARD staff and also to conduct a workshop on advocacy and agroecology. I also visited the smallholder farmer communities in which we work. The focus of the project is on improving agricultural practices as well as strengthening entrepreneurship. For example, raising pigs and chickens in a small scale and sustainable way. And in general, we want to motivate people to use local resources, which are often dumped or even burned, such as rice husk or straw for compost production. And furthermore, we seek to improve crop rotations, promote mixed cropping, and also establish agroforestry systems.
Yeah, for those who don't know these terms, explain them briefly.
Yes, for example, a 3-unit maize onion crop rotation is better transformed into a 7-unit rotation where we have more diversity and more crops that are from different plant families to prevent diseases and to reduce the pest intensity. So we advertise using different crops which can create an income for the smallholder farmers. The next term I would like to explain is the mixed cropping. It's just a concept to diversify plants and eliminate monocultures, which are often found in Malawi, such as with maize or sweet potato, and use also perennial crops in a system like shrubs and trees, including legumes, which can fix nitrogen, and also annual crops in the same space. So to say, a very mixed and diverse agroforestry system. This ensures an ecological resilience and requires less external inputs such as mineral fertilizers or chemical synthetic pesticides, for example.
So you brought us some pictures. Let us take a look at the first one.
Yeah, this one was taken in Chinji. This is a western district of Malawi, already bordering with Zambia. There we can see a women's group who have built fish ponds in a joint effort to breed jumbo, which is a fish that is very tasty without many bones, and it originates from the family in which you find also tilapia. And the project is about to economically empower the woman in order to aim a structural change. But here also the challenge is to advocate for planting perennial plants around the ponds like trees and shrubs, which would mean also further income, financial income, but also strengthen the ecosystems, the stability of them. And the reason why they don't do it, they mentioned that there are some raptors that prey on or snatch on the fish, on the jumbo. But yeah, we have to observe it more thoroughly if this is really the case, or if they need just more support to realize that. Yeah, the next picture was also taken in Chinji. This was taken after Sonkano, which is a Chichewa word for meeting within the community, including the leader, which is called Mfumu in Chichewa. So the guests, or alendo as they were called in Chichewa, now that I already talk a lot of words, the guests are always received with joy by the community. So they sing, they dance, they clap their hands, they cheer, and just express their happiness that guests have arrived. So they are very friendly. Yeah, we can already see the next picture here. This was taken in the southern region of Malawi in Sanchi, which is the extreme south and much hotter than the rest of the country. Only that this part of the year it's a bit cooler. You can see I have a some pullover, and we can see here a backyard garden of a smallholder farmer, which is in front of the picture, and he's smiling and very proud of his really big and nice, still unripe papayas. But they look kind of impressive. And also a cart colleague, which is beside of me. And behind my head, you can see some drying sesame plants, which is also an important cash crop. This picture we can see now is also taken in Sanje, taken on an irrigation scheme, where you can see some plots on a community field, which is irrigated with the help of a solar pump. So these small plots are flooded for watering, and surrounded or beside these empty plots, we can see onions growing, but also tomatoes, garlic, beetroot, beans, first and foremost. And the challenge here is that they are affected by a disease, a fungal disease, and there's a lot of disease pressure due to lack of crop rotation. And this is what I mentioned before. The crop rotation is very narrow. They grow maize, onion in 1 year and repeat that again and again. And this creates a big problem for the ecological stability and also for the economic stability in the long run. Well, finally, I also brought you a video, Timo. If you would be so kind and play this one for us.
Yes. Yeah. So what we can see a big tree, which seems like a gathering point. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, this was right after a meeting with the community where we just spoke about how they progress in the project, and they were showing us some products they made, like hibiscus, and offered me some tea, and they were very joyful afterwards, and they were just happy that we are there, and in order to see their fields and to see how they are. And the tree you mentioned is a mango tree, is a very tall and big tree, which gives some shade and of course also some nice fruits. So you cannot really often see big trees in Malawi because they are used for firewood many times.
Yeah, so thank you, Marcus, for bringing this information and the stories. And thank
Very
you
welcome.
for your work.
Thank
And
you also.
before we finish, can you tell us something in Chichewa? Or what progress you have made since the last episode?
Inditu, yes, we can.
Yes, we can. We can start just with the standard greeting, no, what we learned last time. And then I will ask Marcus where does he live and if he's happy living there. Okay? Okay, let's start. Muli bwanji.
Ndili bwino kaya ino.
Nenso ndili bwino zikomo.
Zikomo.
Mumakhala kuti.
Ndimakhala ku BCA.
Kodi mumazangalala kumeneko?
Ndimasangalala kwambiri chifukwa tili ndi mitengo ambiri.
Chawino.
Zikomo.
Zikomo. Yeah, so I asked Marcus where does he live, and he said in BCA, and
that I am happy to live there because there are many trees.
So that's nice. Sounds great. So you have
yes,
brought
we
us
have
some...
learned.
Okay. So you have brought us some very exciting impressions there for today. And I'm looking forward to hearing more stories from you guys. So what can we expect in the next episode? Maybe you can tell us a little bit.
Yes, we will talk about food and food habits in Malawi. We will take you to a market situation so you can see a bit how and what do you find on a market. And we will be continuing to report a bit on our work and also on my work communities, as I already gave you an insight today. So yeah, I'm looking forward to meet you again soon.
Yes, and just as an information, the third episode will be the last about our first impressions in Malawi. Starting the fourth episode, we will talk about specific topics like mobility or fertilizers, for example, like more on the agroecology thematic, or also garbage management, for example. So stay tuned, and we hope we could connect you a little bit to the Malawian reality, and we would be very happy if you follow us on our social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And of course, we will also like to keep you informed via our website. See you next time. Tio, Nana, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, and thanks, Timo, for your work.
So yeah, I would like to mention our website is NUNANMAR.com. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to write us your comments, constructive critique. Don't forget, this helps us to improve. See you soon. Bye bye.
Yeah.